Well, hi there. I'm going to show you how to do my Zig Zag Juniper stitch hat. So the only stitch I use to do this whole thing is my juniper stitch that I created. And this brim is also my ally stitch. So I'm going to be taking you to the stitch video for the brim because I already have a brim video made, and then we will catch up and I'll show you how to do the pattern with the juniper. Okay, and I will tell you the yarn I'm using. I love this chunky yarn, and I gotta find the color. It's down here somewhere. I know it is. It is Plum Garden, and it's a good name for it. It's got a bunch of different kinds of purples in here, and some white. Okay, and it's a bulky yarn, and I'm using a 5/8 inch loom. It's a Cindy Wood loom, and it has 42 pegs. Okay, now that's similar to a small hat size. If you're going to use a 3/4 inch 36 peg loom with a bulky yarn, it's about this size, maybe a tiny bit smaller, but around the same size. And you could actually do this with a fine gauge yarn, fine gauge loom too, with the appropriate yarn. This stitch actually works in any gauge with the right yarn. Okay, and if you want to see more juniper stitch, my stitch video is on my channel, and I have a lot of other projects with juniper stitch in it and juniper in the patterns. Okay, so I'll take you to, oh yeah, the loom hook I'm using. I should show you the loom hook. Okay, I have this loom hook. I got it from people that no longer make it, but there are some very similar ones on Etsy from Steve Axelrod. I think the name is Artisanal Turnings. The only difference, he actually uses a similar kind of thing here, but his hooks go straight. They come out here and go straight, whereas the hooks from We Have a Handle on This that used to make them actually go on a curve. So it's pretty easy for me to always tell them apart. The hook is different, and I find that this hook works really good for some stitches, and the straight hook of Steve's works really good for other stitches, but the handles on both are very, very nice. Keep you from getting any kind of fatigue in your fingers. Okay, so that's everything you need to know. I'll take you to the brim, and then we will catch up and we will start on the rest of the hat. So I'm going to start by doing a chain cast on. It's a crochet chain cast on. I'm going to do it without a crochet hook. So what I do, I just take it, make a loop, just like that, and then put the working yarn through it and have a slip knot, and then I just place that on the first peg. And then I take my loom hook, put it under the loop, and pull the working yarn through to get a loop. And then I tighten it by pulling on the working yarn here in the back and make sure that this stitch is tight. And then I just take that loop, put it behind the next peg, holding on to it, and pull the working yarn through it. And that's all there is to the cast on. Put the loop behind, working yarn through, tighten it up, behind, working yarn through, tighten it up. At any time, if you want this loop to be smaller, you just pull on it. So working yarn behind and tightening it up. I mean the loop behind and tightening it up. And that's all there is to it. And we just do that all the way around the loop. So I'm just going to put you on pause because it'd be boring watching me do it all the way around the loom. And we will catch up when I'm close to the other side. Okay, so here I am almost at the end. So I take the the loop, put it behind the peg, tighten it up, and then here's the one we started at. And so you just take the loop and let it fall over there. And just take the loom hook and knit it over, and now it's all secured and you're ready to go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now is finish the cast on. So I'm going to do a row of owl eye. And so I just do a U-wrap over peg 1, come over, and then I do a wrap over peg 1 and 2, and just knit it over, and knit it over. Whatever peg you're on, peg 1, you go over peg 1 and 2 and knit it over. I have lots of videos of owl eye on my channel, so you can go watch those if you'd like to see more of a demonstration of it. And then just around and knit it over. And peg 1 over peg 1 and 2, knit it over. And we just do owl eye all the way around. Okay, so I will meet you back up at the beginning peg again. Okay, so I've done my row of owl eye all the way around the loom, and now I'm going to do one row of purl, and it'll be the only purl in the whole hat. And I just want to do it here at the beginning of the brim to make sure that the edge stays nice and straight. So how you purl is you put the working yarn into the loop. There we go. And then pull up the working yarn, take the loop off, and let the loop fall to the front. So take the hook, put it in the loop, pull up the working yarn, and you pull up the whole loop and put the new loop on. Under, pick up the working yarn, put it on the peg, and tighten it up. And there's lots and lots of videos on YouTube if you haven't purled before. So we just do one row of purl. So I will meet you up when we get back to the starter peg again. Okay, so I've done my row of purl, and now I'm just going to do owl eye, and our brim is going to be owl eye stitch. So how we start that, there's our peg 1. We always come over and do a U-wrap on peg 1, and now we can go and do a second wrap over peg 1 and one over peg 2. And wherever we are, we're on peg 1, so we wrap 1 and 2, and we just keep going like that. And you can make your brim however long you like it. You could make just a 1-inch brim if you like thin brims. I'm going to do about 1.5 inches. If you like a really long brim, you can do one that's 2 inches long. So I'm just going to keep working in owl eye till I get the brim the length that I want it, and then we can catch up. Okay, so we'll see you in a few. Okay, so now that you've done the brim, we can go right into making the hat, and I've done the first stitch. So what you do right after you do the owl eye brim, and if you want to, you can use a different brim, anything you think that'll look good with a stitch, but as soon as you finish doing the brim, usually you start there, but I already did that stitch. We do the juniper stitch. Now, in case you haven't seen my other stitch videos, I will show you how to do the juniper stitch. So you go in front and back and around in front again. So this is the same yarn, but you're taking it around twice. Then you're taking the 2 bottom ones and putting them over the top, and you keep it pretty loose because it will look a lot nicer if you keep it pretty loose. Okay, and go in front and around and in front again, and then just take the 2 stitches over. Now, if you ever get mixed up, because it gets you can't tell which one's on top or anything like that, all you have to do is unwind the top and you'll see that it's this one that goes on top. Two bottom ones over the top always. Make sure it's always the two bottom that go over the top. Okay, and then you just keep going, and it's a really easy stitch. You shouldn't be struggling. If you're struggling in any way, you're wrapping too tight. I've been doing this stitch for months now, so I've gotten really good at keeping it the right tension. It'll look good though if you get tighter. It looks good anyway. It gives you the same kind of a pretty stitch. Now the reason we're doing it like this is when you do it and you keep going around and around and around without doing the zigzag, you get a different look, and you'll see that on my channel. Okay, but I'm doing it like this. Okay, so you just keep going around and around. And so what you do is you do 4 rows. Okay, so you go around for 4 rows, and then we will catch up at the end of your 4th row, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so we will see you in a bit. Okay, so I've done my 4 rows going this way, and now what we do is we are going to change direction. Now every time you change direction, what would happen is you would get a hole right here, and it would look really bad. So I'm going to show you what to do to avoid that. And if you look down here, you'll see you can't even really notice that this is the back and that I changed direction. There it is, right here at the back. See? You cannot tell. Now the reason you can't tell is you need to do always, when you switch direction, when you're doing hats like this, you need to do something with the peg that you're using to change the direction to not get the hole. Now with the juniper stitch, you're going around like this. So you have this stitch on here. So what we're going to do to change direction is do a wrap and turn. Because if we do a wrap and turn from the front, it's very similar to the juniper stitch already. So it will blend right in and you won't be able to see it. Okay, so now we're going to change the direction. We go on here, we leave it on here, holding it tight. We wrap this twice. We just leave that on there, just like a wrap and turn method when you're making a 10-stitch blanket or anything like that where you use wraps and turns. And you'll leave the 2 stitches on the peg, and you'll knit them just like the regular knit when you come back. Okay, now when you're going the other direction, and you're going to change direction, you do the same thing. You just do a wrap and turn over it and leave the yarn on that white peg. For you, it'll be your starter peg, whatever color you have or however you've marked it. So that's all you do. Okay? And then we go to the next stitch and knit it over. Okay? So I'm going to go all the way around the loom and then knit that over so you can see it. Okay? And we will catch up. Maybe I'll just do a couple more stitches. So when you're going this direction, same thing, double wrap, take the 2 over the top. Now depending whether you're left or right-handed, you might find one direction easier, but for me it's keeping it the right thing in the camera. But if I turn it like this, it makes it a little bit easier. Hopefully you can still see good. Just wrap it, flip it over. Wrap it, oop, flip it over, wrap it, and then flip them over. So it's very easy either direction you're going. So I'll go around and I'll show you how to, what we're going to do when we come to that peg, and I will see you in a bit. Okay, I'm almost at the end of the row, so I'm going to knit this one. Okay, and then I'm just going to knit that one, but I will show you once you've done 4 rows this way, because it's 4 rows one way, 4 rows the other way. That's the pattern. So when you're going to change direction this way, you just do the wrap and turn this way and go back. It's that easy, okay? But we're still doing 3 more rows this way, so we go over in the juniper stitch, and now we have 3 to take over the top. So that's all you do, and then keep going. And again, I'll show you how seamless that method works with the juniper stitch. See, this is loose here because this is where my yarn is, but you can see right here that you can't even tell. You can't tell. Okay, just blends in really, really well. So this is a stitch that's great to use the reversal. Some stitches are better than others, and I do have some other videos scheduled in where I've been reversing direction because I've been working on that since I did my swatch a few months ago of this stitch in my group. So what we'll do now is I'm getting to the point where I'm almost long enough to bind this off. So you'll just do this any length that is right for you. Do 4 rows one way, 4 rows the other way, and you keep doing the juniper stitch. And then when you're all done that, all you need to do is I will link you to my bind off video. And I already have a bind off video made, so I will link you, or I will edit that right on here, and you'll be able to see how to bind it off. And I'm going to do a couple rows of E-wrap before I bind it off. My bind off video will tell you you have to do at least 1 row of E-wrap, but the reason you do the row of E-wrap is so that it's easy to move the stitches around to get a nice reduced brim. So I think I'm probably going to do maybe 2 to 3 rows of E-wrap, but you can do as many as you want. Okay, it just gives you a little bit of smoother end to the bind off. Okay, so keep going. I'll take you to the bind off, and then we will look at the finished hat and have fun making it. This is just one of my favorite stitches. That's why I've used it in so many patterns. I just love it, and I just love the way this is zigzagging. My first swatch I did 3 and then zigzagged with the 3, but I like it better with the 4. But you can vary it. You can make a longer zigzag or a shorter zigzag, or you can just go back and forth with the method I show you to make this look exactly like your flat panel that I've done in Juniper Stitch. You can make it look exactly the same just by going back and forth in the method I've showed you. And I may do a video on that as well. I haven't done that one yet though, but I've done a few others. Okay, and they're all scheduled in. So we will see you in a bit, and I will show you the end, and I hope your hat looks just as nice as mine or better. Okay, bye for right now. And now we can go ahead and bind it off. And I'm just going to do a slightly decreased bind off so I don't get a lot of bulk. And it's pretty easy to do. So all we're going to do first is do a row of E-wrap. And it doesn't matter which stitch you ended with. Whether you ended with the Juniper stitch or the U-wrap, it'll work fine either way. So we're just going to E-wrap nice and loose all the way around the loom. And the reason you want to keep it loose is you're going to have to move some stitches, and you want to them to be fairly loose to move. I just kind of gently push it to make sure I'm keeping it nice and loose. Okay, and then you're just going to knit the last one to secure it. Knit it over, and then you're just going to go around the loom and knit off the E-wrap. Okay, so I'll just put you on pause and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to go by 2s all the way around the loom, and every second peg is going to go on the first peg. the yarn. So you're going to take it off and you're just going to move it over to the peg before it. So just taking it off and moving it to the peg before it. And you're just going to go all the way around the loom. So you'll have 2 loops on peg 1, nothing, 2 loops on peg 2, nothing, or two loops over here. And you're just going to keep doing that so that every second peg will be blank and every second peg will have the 2 loops on it. Okay? So if you are on a uneven loom, you won't have an even amount of pegs, so you just don't bother doing the last one. Doesn't really matter. And because I kept this nice and loose, it's quite easy for me to move these over. Just awkward because the angle I have it, but okay, so I'm going to put you on pause, and as you see how this is looking, and we're just going to meet up when we have that done. Okay, now that you have that all done, all you're going to do is go around the loom and knit the bottom one over the top, like that. And that reduces the bulk so that your cast off and the back of your hat will lay a lot flatter. And more, and then the one more, and there we are, and there's the working yarn coming out of this one. And then all we're going to do is, with the working yarn, go around the loom 1.5 times and just cut your yarn. Now you can either use your loom hook or a needle, and we're just going to go up and scoop up the loops so we can do a drawstring bind off. And I usually use a needle, but if you were going to use your loom hook, which is easy to do with this method, you just take the yarn and pull it through like that. And if you have a needle, you just put the needle on and you're going to pick it up the same way. I usually use a needle. This is so much easier though when you're doing it sometimes. On a bigger loom, I'd for sure want a needle. Okay, so I'm just going to put you on pause and we'll pick it all up and I'll see you at the beginning. Okay, now when we get all the way around, we make sure we pick up the very first stitch that we had already picked up. You want to make sure that every peg is on here. Now all you have to do is take all the pegs off the loom. You just go around and you just flip them off. I'm just holding on to the drawstring here because I want to make sure that it doesn't come off. And we just take them all off. And you can even do it with your fingers. And there we go. All off the loom. We can just put the loom to the side. We don't need it anymore. And then you're going to take the working yarn and you're just going to draw string the brim closed. Okay, you're just going to make sure that it's all like that. And then when you get it about halfway, you're just going to take the working yarn and put it through the hat and flip it this way because we're going to finish it on the wrong side. And we just bind it up, and as you see here, it's going to be not as bulky as it would have been. We've thinned that out. Okay, and now this is when we do need a needle. So I'm just going to get a needle. I have a needle in this handy dandy little thing. And also you can cut the working yarn a lot shorter. You just need to sew that close. So I'm going to cut it to about there and put the needle through the yarn, or the yarn through the needle. Okay, there we go. So that's threaded, and we're just going to sew this closed. So what I do is, now that I've bound it up, is I kind of pinch it so I can see where that edge was, and then I make sure it's pulled nice and tight. There's the hole in the middle, so I just want to pinch it so I'm at that hole in the middle. And then I just take the needle and I just sort of sew around in a circle around that hole, just picking up some loops. Okay, and then I'm going to actually do a knot. My loom wants, or my yarn wants to be all weird. Go, and I'm going to do another knot. Just want to make sure that this doesn't come apart. I'm just going to go to the other side. And make another knot. And then you can sew the working yarn in if you'd like. I just actually, because it's not going to be reversible, I just cut it and leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. Doesn't bother me. And the other side of your hat looks like this. It's a lot thinner, but we'll take it and we'll stretch our stitches, because that's what you always do when you make a hat, is you stretch your stitches. You pull it every way and make sure it's all stretched out. And then there's your hat. It's looking really nice. The top is flattened a lot better, your beanie hat, than it would have been. And there you go. You have a beautiful beanie hat. Okay, so here's the finished hat. And here's what it looks like. A really, really cool juniper zigzag. And here's the flattened brim. And let's put it so you can really see what the brim looks like. See, it's pretty flattened out here. And then of course you're always going to just take your work and stretch out the stitches, and they come more alive. And then I'll show you the inside too. The inside looks good. There's what your inside looks like. And there's what your outside looks like. And I really like it with the owl eye brim because the owl eye brim looks like it's part of the zigzag. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I have lots of other juniper stitches on my channel. Have a look. And until next time, bye.